Welcome back to the first of two games I'll be reviewing today. I'll also be reviewing Slovakia versus Canada. So, the Finns trying to go to 2-0. The Swiss, you know what? The Swiss are a tough team. They are. They're a team that is also overmatched. They're a team that you can understand that they're going to have their struggles. They're not looking like a medalist by any stretch, and yet they kept this one close for a long time. So this is a close game between two teams that it felt like one had way more going for it than the other. And then in the third, it really became all Team Finland. So let's start things out. It was Tappanen versus Faton. And I'll say that we talk about these tournaments and whether or not they improve a guy's standing. And Faton, the goaltender for Switzerland, had a pretty good game. The Swiss defended well early. Tappanen was then tested 2.5 minutes in. So the Swiss came out and seemed to send a message of, yeah, we're not going to get pushed aside easy here. Niemela then takes a penalty. The Swiss go to the power play, and they connected on it. So it's 1-0 Switzerland. Biasca with a goal on the power play from Fust and Allensbach at 3:44. And as soon as I saw the name Biasca, I thought, somewhere Don Cherry's calling him Biaxa. Or Bieksa. Because, of course, for years, Bieksa, he called him Biesca. So here's a guy named Biasca, and he'd probably say Biaksa. There you go. But that lead doesn't last. It lasts less than a minute, and it's Lundell that ties it up from Simon Taval. So that's how quickly Finland said, yeah, no, you're not winning this one. And Lundell, I thought, had a very good game. So if you're a fan of Florida watching this game, you have reason to be happy. So thus the reason I wore the Florida hat with this jersey. And that was really fast, and then they got a power play. However, it was a solid penalty kill, and Hofer actually had a chance for Switzerland shortly thereafter. Then Hirvonen got a post on a Lundell pass. They got another post. That one was by Lambert. Brad Lambert got the post on that one. And the Swiss, I thought, were really hanging on at that point. And yet, they wouldn't be hanging on in this period nearly as much as they did in the second and the third. Buhaka then had a near miss as the Finns were continuing to press. The Swiss were blocking shots, but the Finns were winning all the puck battles. So this was Finland just being the better team. Hataka then takes a penalty. Late Swiss power play, but they get no shots on it. Very good penalty kill. So there's a couple of things to take from this game. One is that Switzerland's power play looked decent early, but Finland eventually got the penalty kill going. But Finland, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Faton then snagged a Niemela chance in the final minute, and that kept it tied at 1-1. So surprisingly close game. Second period, Finns pressured in the first minute, all Finland early. Faton was passing the test on this, and then pressure, just the constant pressure, eventually drew a penalty from the Swiss. And during that power play, Finland takes their first lead of the game. It's Parssinen scoring on that power play from Niemela and Lambert at 4:53. So Lambert on the board, and he is going to be a highly looked at prospect going into the draft. So this is kind of his coming out party. The shots were 12-0 Finland in the second period at 7 minutes. That's the kind of shooting gallery that poor Faton was dealing with in the Swiss net. And he looked good, and he didn't get rattled. Hirvonen then takes a penalty. Swiss get the power play. That power play gets one shot. So Swiss don't make them pay at that stage. It was all Finland, but it was only a 1-goal lead. And then Viro takes a penalty, and that's the fourth Swiss power play. But again, the Finnish penalty kill holds. Switzerland unable to get anything going in that one. Finland then goes back to the box for a fifth Swiss power play, which again has its struggles, but you can't be doing this. Biasca then was denied by Tappanen on the power play, and I thought Biasca was their best forward to that stage of the game. He wouldn't win player of the game for them, but I thought he played well. Hirvonen then missed the empty net in the final seconds. So both Niemela and Hirvonen had chances that didn't quite go in for them. But it's a 2-1 lead for Finland entering the third period. And I didn't really feel like there was any chance of Switzerland coming back for the win. But when it's only a 1-goal game, right, you start thinking, well, maybe. So the Swiss had the early edge in that third period with some desperate hockey. You could see that, like, They were trying to jump on the Finns early, trying to get that tying goal. It wasn't happening. The Finns then got a power play on a Fiedler penalty. The Swiss goalie interference then gave the Finns another power play after that. So the Swiss unable to get anything going. But, yeah, goalie interference was becoming a bit of a problem for the Swiss, who weren't getting any shots on the net either. I think there were more Swiss players that ran over a Finnish goalie than pucks hit the Finnish goalie in that period. Defense and goaltending were keeping it close until just after the halfway mark of the third period. Becomes 3-1 as Ratty scores on the power play from Lambert and Niemela. And they kept saying Ratty. So I know Ratu. I know people from Finland probably losing it every time he said Ratty. But that's likely what Ratty's going to be called over here. That's how that works. There were only 2 seconds left in that power play when Ratty scores his second goal of the tournament. So that's kind of a backbreaker for Switzerland right there. Lundell then takes a penalty. This is something Finland's going to have to knock off. Going into, they're gonna play their game on New Year's Eve against Canada. That's the big game. They can't be taking penalties like this. This was a Swiss team that wasn't exactly putting on a ton of pressure, and there was just penalty after penalty after penalty against Finland. They can't be in this kind of mindset, or they're going to find themselves behind quickly against a Canadian team that's just stacked with first-round draft picks. And then the Swiss, another goalie interference call on them in the third period. And it was clear. You can't go through the crease and knock the goalie over, and that's what they were doing. The Finns go to the power play, and at 16:49, Finland scores what was their third power play goal of the game. Simontaval scores it from Hirvonen and Lundell. So great game for these players. They end up winning it 4-1. The next game for Finland's against Slovakia, who are playing Canada in less than an hour's time here. And for Switzerland, their next matchup is against Canada. So Canada plays Germany, Slovakia, and then Switzerland. So we'll see what kind of tests come up. And the interesting thing is that it's happened before where a team just doesn't have that competition. And then when the real competition comes in this case it's Finland, it can really throw you off because you get into bad habits in the games against the bad teams. That's why I was okay with running up the score yesterday by both the U.S. and by Canada. So yeah, your players of the game, Raymond Fust for Switzerland and Juuso Parssinen for the Finnish team. I was kind of surprised to see Parssinen there, but he got the game-winning goal. I would have gone with either Lambert or Lundell, but that's me. The shots were 43-14 overall. It was 9-6 Switzerland, or 9-6 Finland in the first, 16-6 Finland in the second, and in the third, Switzerland's out of their depth. It's 18-2 were the shots in that third period. Final shots 43-14. And so Faton saves 39 out of 43. I thought he was really good. I wouldn't have minded if they'd thrown him the player of the game for Switzerland, because at no point did he throw his arms in the air and say, "That's it, I'm not playing here anymore." So, yeah, Switzerland, decent game for them. And again, we will see if this increases the visibility of some of these players on the Switzerland side of things who may not be draft picks, may have been overlooked in a draft, and maybe a scout looks at today's game and goes, hey, that guy might be worth a flyer in the 5th, 6th, or 7th. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.